Hey, deserving listeners, a lot of you have been asking that I react to this TV show, Darcey and Stacey, which is a spinoff from 90 Day Fiancé. And I'm really excited because this is giving me a rare opportunity to actually react to the show as the episodes are coming out. So this episode just aired a couple days ago, and I'm reacting to it. And so as you watch it, then I'm going to watch it, and that's fun. We'll experience this show together. I'm excited to visit Darcey again. I feel like I really got to know her. I think I did 40 plus reaction videos to her. Journey with Jesse, 2 seasons, and then Tom, 2 seasons. And so I really do feel like I know her, and I feel like I kind of know Stacey as well, but much more Darcey. And I have high hopes. I hope that she can really find love the way that she wants and the way that she deserves, the way we all deserve. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's get to the show and see if anything of interest comes out of my face.
Matching cars. We've had matching apartments, matching furniture, matching boobs. Got married around the same time. Had kids around the same time. Divorced the same time. Same day. We tend to kind of date guys that are younger than us. We've dated internationally. Her ex-husband was from Serbia, and my ex was Hungarian.
Okay, so a little bit more data. I'm always looking for more data so that we can build hypotheses. I'm always sure to say that it's total speculation. I would have to talk with them to know if any of these things were accurate to them. But one of the things that I was trying to figure out was, is there something about Darcey's personality and Stacey's personality, given their upbringing, that would result in them dating people from other countries? Now, it's not a pathology to date people from other countries. It's just a preference, like dating someone in your own town. You can have preferences either way. But it is a little bit out of the ordinary. Most people would rather date someone that lived close to a lot of people statistically like to date people within their own cultural group because there's more chance of understanding. The notion that opposites attract is actually false. When you actually look at the data, opposites do not attract. And in fact, we're very much attracted to similar people. There might be some differences for sure, and some people might be attracted to more different people than themselves than otherwise. But I wonder if we'll learn more about Darcey and Stacey's childhood that might give us some hypothesis. Again, not pathologizing dating people from other countries. But we have seen, at least with Darcey, some pitfalls to that strategy, that it leads to endemically long-distance situations that put some cracks in the foundation of a relationship that lead to her being hurt. You would think she would say, maybe I should date someone in my own town because at the very least I won't have to suffer from the long-distance threat of the relationship. But she continues to do that. Again, it's not a pathology, it's not a problem, but I'm just wondering if we'll learn more about that.
It's the accents or just the sense of different culture. We date the total opposite of what we probably should be dating, but that's what we like, and that's what we're both attracted to. That's right.
Okay, interesting. I mean, it sounds like Stacey is joking. By the way, my wife's name is Stacey, so it's hard for me to look at her and say my wife's name. It's a common name, but anyway. So Stacey is saying that, well, we're probably attracted to the opposite of what we should be attracted to, but we keep doing it anyway. So maybe we'll learn more about that as we progress through the season. This show is focused on the two of them. Instead of in 90 Day Fiancé, they're focused on, 5 or 6 different couples. So presumably we'll get more background information. Let's find out.
Can you even zip them up? We definitely empower each other and raise each other up. Love you. Love you. Cheers. Especially the last few years, because it's been a journey. 4 years ago, I started dating this 24-year-old Dutch guy named Jesse. I took a leap of faith, and I flew to Amsterdam to meet him.
Oh, my God. Wow. Oh, my goodness.
So I will say that I marathoned my way through 4 seasons of Darcey, and it wasn't that long ago that I started watching. Maybe it was 3 or 4 months ago that I started watching the Darcey story, and seeing them in this season, or seeing in this clip right now, it like I have a visceral reaction to watching the two of them together. It was very difficult to watch. There was a lot of difficult feelings and a lot of hurt. It was interesting to watch. It's interesting to think back to where I was at the time because I wasn't familiar with 90 Day Fiancé. And so I think I didn't realize how uniquely terrible their relationship was.
I thought he was the love of my life. But then I started seeing a side of Jesse I'd never seen before.
Did you have a glass of wine?
Yeah, absolutely. What's wrong with that?
What's your attitude?
And of course, that's why you wanted me to watch this show. You rightfully predicted that there would be a lot to say. And as I watch clips from the first 2 seasons with Jesse, the more disturbed I am by what was happening then. While I was watching it, I think it was kind of a slow ramp up to the conflict and to what I believe to be the toxicity. Watching the clips of toxicity, it is stark how toxic it was.
Get out of here. So, bye-bye.
Every time I did something, it was an argument. Where's that rub? You gotta put the rub on it.
Maybe relax.
So if you cut it on a bias at a slant, it saves the juice. I worked in restaurants, so okay.
You ruin everything.
It was just too toxic.
Ding, ding, ding. So now, I'm not saying that Darcey wasn't to blame for part of the conflict. You could make an argument for that in certain circumstances, but it definitely is in stark contrast to even her relationship with Tom. I mean, her relationship with Tom had its issues, but it wasn't anywhere close to her relationship with Jesse.
And eventually, I broke free.
Get some therapy, girl.
This is unbelievable. You don't love me. You never did, you liar. Breakup with Jesse was devastating and embarrassing. You liar! Get out of my life! So I turned to my friend Tom for comfort. I totally felt like I could tell Tom anything. And I felt like he always understood me. Hi, babe.
Hey, Darcey.
I'm excited to see you.
And now you get to be with the person you were supposed to be with from the start.
And then Tom came along, and I had my high hopes for that relationship, but it didn't go well as well. I wonder if Darcey is going to get therapy during the run of this show, because that would be the logical course of action. Has she ever been to therapy? Maybe we'll find out.
Who is this? When I first saw that photo, I didn't know what to think. Eventually, Tom reached out and wanted to meet to clear the air. Oh, that's okay. I don't feel comfortable.
You don't feel comfortable?
Yeah. I wanted to hear what he had to say.
I met someone that loves me the way I wanted to be loved.
You are nothing to me right now.
Put weight on.
What was that? Enjoy your life.
So my running hypotheses for the 2 relationships, if I remember right, for Tom, it was that he was raised in a way where he didn't really develop a strong sense of who he was and what he was and how he feels and what he wants in life. It's a condition that a lot of people have. They might walk around in the world like they're a fully functioning adult, but they don't have a sense, because of the way they were raised, with how they feel, what they want, what their goals are. Sometimes we call this a sense of self. Sometimes we call it differentiation. There's a lot of different words for it. But it's not like people walk around saying, I don't know who I am and I don't have a sense of self. Sometimes they don't even know they don't have a sense of self, and they try to act like everyone else because they see other people having goals in life and doing things, but they don't really have a sense of like their behavior generating from their own needs. A common symptom, and this obviously isn't always the case, but it's a slight yellow flag for a lack of self, is when you're 28 years old and you still don't know what you want to do with your career. Like I said, there are plenty of people who are 28 and are still developing their career. I didn't become a therapist until I went to grad school when I was 24, but I didn't become a therapist until I was 26. So it's not uncommon to change your career later on. But my point is that when you talk to a 28-year-old or a 35-year-old and you're like, what do you want to do with your career? And they're just like, well, I wouldn't mind doing this, or I don't know. I mean, my dad said I should do this. They don't have, and then they describe that and you say, no, yeah, fine. That's what society wants, or that's what your dad wants. What do you want? They'll often be like, I don't really know what I want. And it's a yellow flag of a potential indication of a larger issue of the fact that they're not connected with who they are. And Tom seemed to exhibit that in his behavior. It came across as manipulative and hurtful and deceitful and self-centered, and certainly one could conceptualize him in those adjectives as well. But usually people aren't like that. Usually when people come across like they are deceitful and self-centered, it's usually because of some more understandable reason. You know, people don't usually wake up in the morning and say like, ha ha ha, I'm going to be focused on myself and I'm going to purposely deny other people's feelings. There's usually some kind of mistreatment or developmental problem that impairs one's ability to focus on other people in a way that is mutual. You know, taking care of yourself, taking care of other people, noticing what you want, noticing what other people want. There just seemed to be with Tom, like he just never really knew what he wanted. Like I remember when he was dating essentially two different women, Darcey and the other woman, he was telling Darcey, hey, let's go on a cruise together while he was dating this other woman. And then when Tom would talk with his sister or his friend or the camera, he just seemed to have really no basis for what he was doing. You would think someone would say something like, well, I really want to be with this other woman, and I feel like me and Darcey aren't really working out, something like that. But every time he was around either Darcey or the other woman or his sister, or he just kind of absorbed what they were saying. And some of you out there watching might be able to relate to this, or you might know someone in your life like this. It can be very frustrating for the person and for people around that person. It's usually because they were denied an ability when they were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old to get in connection with who they are. That's usually the window in which we are most apt to develop a sense of who, or the foundation of who we are. And if there's any kind of chaos or mistreatment or neglect or something going on, then that'll interfere with that. And the observation that his sister was very over-functioning for him kind of played into that hypothesis as well. With regards to Jesse, Jesse seemed to have also a difficulty with a sense of self, and a difficulty with soothing the self, and a difficulty with taking responsibility, right? So a lot of people would say that, like, Jesse blames Darcey for everything. He's a hothead. He's extremely self-centered and narcissistic, people will say. And my hypothesis about his issue was that he needs to uphold a veil of I'm better than other people, because underneath that he feels very inferior. Now, it's a very rough hypothesis. I would have to work with him for a long period of time to develop further upon that hypothesis, but he certainly fit the profile of someone like that. And when you have those issues, you have ancillary issues about extreme sensitivity to rejection and extreme sensitivity to a relationship loss. And I think that when he saw Darcey drinking, it triggered some kind of trauma in him. I'm guessing that when he was young, that he experienced alcoholism, and it really, really hurt him in some really fundamental ways. And so whether he was accurately identifying Darcey as having a problem with alcohol or not, regardless of that, he was definitely triggered by her drinking and seemed very emotional about it. Now, the way he comes across is very superior and very domineering and very judgmental. That's the surface level. But underneath that, I think, was a tremendous amount of fear, and so much fear and so much distrust that he wasn't able to trust other people with what was really going on for him. And so he covered up all of that terror and that hurt by coming across as like, I'm better, I don't have feelings, I'm the superior one, everything's fine. That's my general hypothesis for him as well. Of course, you just have to take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I've actually talked to people on this show and come to learn more details and been like, that sort of bolsters this hypothesis, but not this one, and it sort of shifts this other hypothesis. And that's the nature of personality assessment. There's no way to assess the personality from a TV show. When I assess personality in my practice, I take 5, 10, 20 sessions with a willing client who is willing to tell me their inner life and their long-term patterns, repetitive patterns in their lives. And I throw stuff out there, and I'm like, well, how does this sound? What's going on with, does this sound like it might be accurate? And then, we iterate on that back and forth, 20 sessions. And really, it takes me longer than that to feel confident. It might take me years to develop a confident profile of someone's personality. And anything short of that, I'm just saying, well, who knows? These are starting off points. Anyway, let's get back to the show.
Have a twin because you have a partner for life.
Yeah, I feel like we always have each other's back at the end of the day. And
I feel like we know what we're each other's thinking and feeling.
yeah, I guess you can call it twin tuition or intuition, but
We know each other the most out of anybody.
yeah.
Now, for Darcey's profile, my hypothesis involved her and her upbringing, which I almost know nothing about, resulting in her having a schema of I am worthless, I'm unlovable, people are going to leave me. And when there was conflict, she would pretty quickly fall into that place of just, there's a meme about her just like, And now, it's not abnormal or strange to be sad when you're being dumped or when you're being treated badly. But she seemed to fall pretty hard into it. Even on the first in-person date with Tom, she got a little tipsy. And even though she hadn't had any conflict with Tom at that point, she fell into that space where she just felt like, I've just had a really hard life and no one's loved me. Again, as I always say, emotions are our friends, and people should be able to express whatever emotion comes up for them. But a frequent state he goes to is just like, no one's going to love me. I'm never going to find love. And what seems to be her way of coping with that is she has two different modes. She has the mode of like, I'm worthless. No one's going to love me. This is pointless. And then when she starts to recover a little bit, this toggle switch goes off and she becomes extremely optimistic. And we've seen her do this, with the transition from Jesse to Tom. She made that, that transition where she was like, oh, this is going to work out. We're going to get married. Everything's, even though just maybe months earlier, she was saying the same thing about Jesse, and then it didn't work out with him. So you'd think someone would say to themselves, maybe I'm not the best judge of a relationship in the beginning in particular. Maybe I should cool my jets a little bit. But the defense is essentially a form of denial. Why would someone like her do that? Well, they would do that because we all have needs, and she has a need for romantic attachment, love attachment, a soulmate. And so if she believes in the schema that's sort of a foundational part of her personality, that she's worthless and that everyone will abandon her, then there's no hope, right? So in order to cope with trying to get your needs met, you have to somehow deal with this belief system. And without therapy, you basically have to find a defense. And a very effective defense is denial. You're just like, that's not happening. In fact, anything that points in that direction, I'm going to deny. So any data that points in the direction that this relationship isn't going to work, I'm just going to ignore. Because to acknowledge that piece of data will lead me to this belief that I am never going to find anyone, and that is too painful to acknowledge. So I'm going to deny any information that has to do with that, and I'm going to be super positive. I'm going to be very happy. I'm going to be very optimistic, and I'm going to rush right into things, and everything's going to work out fine. And this person is going to love me. And you even saw that idealization. So that's another kind of piece to that defense that Darcey seemed to exhibit. Again, I would have to ask her if this is accurate. But with the beginning of Tom, with her relationship with Tom, she very idealized him, even though she didn't know him that well, right? And she was just like, I'm in awe around you. You're just this amazing man, everything about you. To the point where Tom at some point was like, whoa, like you seem to think everything is awesome and I'm awesome. And it just feels like you're not really being accurate about the situation. It's overwhelming. Like, can't you just relax and have a good time? Why does everything have to be the most awesome thing in the world? Well, if you don't acknowledge everything is awesome and you stop to think like, well, there's nuance here, then that negativity is going to crop up. I'm never going to find anyone. I'm not lovable. No one can be trusted. So that's my hypothesis about her. And maybe we'll find out as to why Darcey developed that schema. I doubt it, but we'll find out. Another disclaimer here is I'm probably going to get their names mixed up because I'm not great with names. And now that we have Darcey and Stacey and they're twins, I'm probably going to mix up their names. I mixed up Erica and Stephanie's name. I've mixed up so many other names. So please forgive me as we move forward.
Yeah, we wanted to go pro. Ooh, not so bad. Ah! Oh, come on.
We never really fit in high school. We were kind of the underdogs.
I feel like I still got it. Shoot. Keep your eye on the prize. Eye on the ball.
We weren't the pretty girls. We were always like the
Short little bopsy twins.
yeah. They called us
The troll, like troll dolls.
yeah, like frolas and stuff because our hair was curly and we were
Munchy
short.
cheese.
Okay, a little bit more data. I wouldn't have suspected that given their personas as adults, but it's a little bit more data. Now, a lot of people consider themselves to have gone through awkward years during their high school times. So that's not incredibly uncommon, but maybe we're seeing something there of bullying in a sense, or a place of lack of self-esteem where they feel like they don't measure up to other people and they feel like they have to overcompensate for that as adults. Who knows? But it's just another piece of data that I'm happy to receive because I want to know more about their childhoods.
He's kind of cute.
People made fun of us a lot.
He wore glasses.
Yeah, we were very awkward and shy and introverted. We hung out with each other. It was just me and Darce.
We never kissed a boy in high school. Boys never liked us. I don't know. I mean, we're late bloomers.
Okay, so a little bit more data. It's interesting.
It wasn't until college we kind of came out of our shell and started talking to boys, and that's where we grew. And I feel like people understood us.
Accepted us.
And accepted us.
Yeah.
People always remembered us. They're like, oh, those twins. I think a lot of people liked our fashion and our outfits, our sense of style. We just had our own little flair. We were like, finally the cool kids.
Come on. Oh.
Okay, so that's interesting. So according to them, their narrative, they blossomed in college and early adulthood, and a big part of that was their fashion. So all of us have this. Anything that you hold important to you today, anything that you have self-esteem in, anything that you kind of project into the world as like, this is who I am, you likely have roots of events in your childhood or early adulthood in which you found self-esteem for that. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle, in which I start watching this TV show called, is it Darcey and Stacey? Is that the name of this show? It has Darcey and Stacey on it. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.